in on a foreigner living in the Philippines. As I always say, I moved out here about over 3 years ago. And I met and married Beth, my wife, and we live out in the mountains in Bohol, which is on the island of Bohol. And what we wanted to do was just show the difference between a childhood of somebody who was brought up in the UK, in an industrial city of Manchester, and Beth, who lived out here on 8 hectares of land out in the mountains. Could not be more different. So, Beth, how did you grow up?
I grew up here, and you know, the whole of my childhood is here, you know. And at that time, we don't have television, we don't have electricity,
Right.
you know. So we just have a small radio, you know, and with a battery. So in the night, we just listen the radio, some dramas on the radio. Then by I think 6:30 or 7, we already sleep. You know, because we just only have a small light with a gas on it, you know, a kerosene gas. That's what we use. So that's how we don't have television, we don't have anything, you know. Just and usually the games that I know, it's just
Or outdoor games.
yeah, outdoor games, you know. Sometimes hiding some stone, you know.
Very simple games.
Yeah, very simple games, you know. So that's how it is. And then when I went to school, I learned something, you know, about that we have that, you know, it's not like in school when I was a kid at time. When I went to school, some of my classmates are talking about the TV series, you know, what's the update, you know.
Okay.
So I can't relate to that because I don't know. You know, so they're talking about the news of the actress and actors, and I can't.
So these are children who lived
in the
closer
road,
to
yeah,
the road.
closer to the
We're
road.
about 2 miles. I call it 2 miles from the road. It's up and downhill. When I first came, it was actually a very narrow path, wide enough for a carabao to walk along and drag a sled which is just over 2 feet wide. And everything that the house needed, everything the family needed, would be brought up on that bamboo sled. And surprisingly, it is still that way. We now have a truck, but my brother-in-law still brings up his stuff on the carabao. He still goes to market sitting on his carabao. So, in a way, the 50 years that my mother-in-law and father-in-law, late father-in-law, have lived here, things have changed very little. We brought massive changes in the way of water. We've got water now on demand from the well. We've had a new well dug. An electric motor pumps the well up now to our house, which is about 30 or 40 yards away from my mother-in-law's.
Yeah, which is one of
so
the
it's changed
change,
a
you know.
lot now for
Yeah,
you.
because before we just go to the creek, you know,
Yes.
and then just bring our clothes there, bring our laundry, and
You
we
used to wash all of your clothes
yeah,
at the creek.
you know, and we take a bath at the creek, you know, because our drinking well there is just very small,
Right.
and it can't provide the water for laundry, for taking a bath, so we need to go to the creek, which is one of the things that I always remember when I was a child, you know, when I was a kid, because we always swim at the creek, you know.
Right.
So,
So the creek for you is not the creek that we have to cross, and the reason we built the bridge. The creek is more upstream,
Yeah, more
where
upstream.
it widens out into a pretty wide area, especially for little kids to be swimming in.
and I think one thing that I remember when I was a kid is we're going to the creek to get some fresh crab, you know, freshwater fish.
Back
you know.
then there were crabs and fish.
Yeah, and even now there's still, but it's not like before, you know,
No.
because it's more changed now. You know.
Somehow things always change.
Yeah, because only constant in this world is change, right? So that's how it is.
Well,
So-
for me in my childhood, was all cobblestone streets of Manchester, all terraced houses, by the time I was 15, I left school at 15, and my first real job was training for the coal mines in Lancashire. I did my training at the Robin Hood pit, and I was about to start my job as a coal miner when actually I was accepted for the army. And I was a boy soldier at the age of 16. Of course it can't happen now, but I was a boy soldier, signed on and did 8.5 years in the British Army. At 16 years old, I was already serving in the army as a boy soldier in Berlin. So a lot different. But my childhood, when I look back, I realise that I did have a very different childhood, certainly very different to Beth. And I count myself as a city boy, which is also quite a big shock for me to be here and share the life of a hilltop farming community with all different kinds of beliefs, different kinds of habits and culture, and a very big adjustment. But I try to learn from what they have, and I try to learn about the difference between my childhood and upbringing and Beth's. And I can see the kind of childhood that she had by looking at the children that are in our lives right now.
Yeah. So I think the advantage now of the kids around us, is there is already an electricity here, So which is they're more advanced, or they're more aware of what's happening.
Yes, not sure.
When it comes to news, when it comes to some TV series, which is very
that's just TV
kids are
series.
being addicted.
I'm not sure that that's a huge advantage to have television. And anyway, power was only brought to the hills where we are about 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years.
Was it 2.5 years ago?
2 years ago.
That's all. Just a few months prior to our deciding that we were going to come and live here.
Could you imagine if we arrive here without electricity until now? What's our life,
Yes, because I did need, I built a house, which is on another video, and yes, I didn't have many tools, but I did have an electric drill. That much I needed.
When you believe it or not, when I was a kid before, my only dream is to have television, and I will be happy if I have that. I says one of my friend asked me, what is your dream when you grow up, And I replied to her, I just want to have a television, and watch all the TV series, watch all the news,
Really, you were not hugely ambitious.
Yeah, I was not ambitious that time, But when I grow up and saw the reality, that's the time that I was trying that it's not just about television, or not about some electricity, because that's our dream. We have an electricity, We always we're always asking at the barangay when. They just always say, yeah, next election. Yeah. So it never happened. Just
so
promises.
a very cynical approach for the Philippines would be that power was brought to the hills just prior to the election.
Yeah. Every
so
time.
So that you would vote
Yeah.
for the candidate that you perceived was responsible for bringing power.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid, during the election day, before election, the barangay official came here and always convinced to my parents, my sisters, that it needs the wire of the electricity is already in the barangay center, That's the promise. So possible by next month, in a few months, it will be run up here. But another election pass, it didn't happen. Always promise, So I think I grew up where.
You grew up in the hope of electrical power.
Yeah. And it just had only a very small dream to have television.
Well, it would be an enormous change.
Yeah. But then it's changed,
See, I can remember that in my life, in my childhood, we didn't have electrical power. So I remember all of those things that you talk about, except a few years longer ago
Yeah.
than for you.
Because we have only small radio, and every time we going to the laundry, we always brought that, you know.
You have a tiny radio.
Yeah, tiny radio.
Well, I can remember sitting around the radio when we didn't have a television. I can remember sitting around the radio and listening to dramas and plays that were on the radio. So I remember that kind of lifestyle, and I remember that we had gas lighting. That was what we had.
So I think because we're in the generations now, kids are more on gadgets, you know. They're more on gadgets. In fact, some of them don't know what's the outdoor games. So I think once if you're a child, you just enjoy when you're a child, you know. Just enjoy, because when you grow up, you realize, I don't want to grow up. There's a lot of problem.
That's right. The first realization of childhood is that you don't want to grow up.
Yeah. But when you're a child, you said, I want to grow, I want to help my parents, I want to find a job, I want to do that, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But when you already grow and you experience how hard it is, how you always experience the difficulty, you said, I want to be a child. So that's how it is.
Yeah, which is funny because when you're an adult, you try to tell children, don't be in too much of a hurry to grow up. But of course, they don't listen.
Yeah,
no more than we listen.
I experienced from that when I was a child. I always said, I want to grow up because I want to help my parents. I want to buy something for them. You know, I want to help. But then when I grow up, when I've been around, when I was studying in college and have jobs, I remember I want to be a child. You know, no worries, no responsibility.
Yes, even though for as far as the West goes, you really didn't have very much, did you? In the way of luxuries, in the way of toys, in all of those things, you had very little, and yet you're looking back on childhood as the happiest time.
Yeah, that's the happiest time of me. You know, even when I remember when I was a child, when we were a kid, the dress of my older sister will pass on my next sister, my next sister. So all of their dress, they already been so.
Worn two or three times.
And it's since I am the youngest, the damaged clothes in me. So that's how it is.
But how many children?
We're 10.
10 children.
Yeah, my mother is very
10 children.
My mother is very workaholic when it comes to making baby.
Well, your father had something to do with that too.
So that's how it is. So
we should say that my mother-in-law is Beth's mom. Is actually holding the camera, so if it's shaking a little, it's because she's either laughing because she thinks it's funny, or she's going to kill us when she puts the camera down.
So
But there was a great deal of years between you and your eldest brother.
Yeah, my eldest sister is 49 and I am 27. You know.
Right.
So my mother born me at the age, labored me at the age of 45.
Right.
You know.
Which even in the West is quite late to have a child.
Yeah,
it's considered quite late, even now, I think.
Yeah, and my mother is laboring all of those 10 of us just in the house.
In this house.
Yeah.
They were all delivered just by a commonly educated woman, not a trained midwife. Just someone who delivered everybody's babies.
Who knows how to deliver a baby.
Just knew it from the grassroots level.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But now it's not allowed to deliver with no, you know.
You have to have a midwife.
Yeah, you have to have a midwife. You should be delivered in the clinic or in the
But
hospital.
I remember that my mother had my brother when she was 43, so not too far behind.
Yeah, we need to clap for my mother, you know.
And she did good.
Yeah, so
well, I got the baby of the family.
So that's all for now, okay? So hope you're going to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. So
yes, it's good that you have watched, and I thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was in some way informative, and that you will, as Beth said, you either like, comment, or and subscribe. But your comments are much appreciated to tell us that we're doing what people want, what entertains, what educates, what informs, all of those things, and hopefully what makes you feel better about life. You should, when you click off from this video, you should feel better about things. That's our job. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, bye-bye and God bless.